What's up guys, and welcome back to Pokemon TCG HQ. So we're now bringing you round 5 of the Athena Games League Cup. So this is the final round of Swiss. So we have two players who are playing for their winning in to top 8, both on a 2-0-2 record, so 2 wins and 2 ties. So on the left we'll have Scott Symonds playing Xerneas Break, and Jack Snell on the right playing Volcanion, which we've seen a few times already. Hope you guys enjoy, and we'll just jump straight into it. Okay, so we've seen Volcanion EX in action already. I believe Jack's playing a quite sort of standard list, nothing too out of the ordinary. It's not similar to the list that Eagle Costa won in the US regionals as well. Um, so as I said, a lot more standard than as usual. We have Scott on the left playing Xerneas Break, which we've seen popularized by sort of Tamal Cameron, what he's played at sort of a number of events recently. He also topped a regionals in Bremen, I think it was. Um, Scott has his own version, has his own list. He's playing a couple of new different tech cards as well. Um, but yeah, so we're in for an interesting matchup. This tends to be slightly in, well, actually a good amount in sort of Xerneas' favor, because once it starts ramping up the sort of energy that it has on its board, it can start taking KOs quite quickly. As you can see there, we do start with Scott starting the game. He does have a Clefairy in the active position. Has a pretty unique attack. I believe it's Metronome, which copies an attack on your opponent's side of the field. So you can actually copy Bright Flame, for example, with a choice band. It would be doing 190 damage, so it's taking one hit KOs. Probably not the most ideal starter here for Scott. We have seen he's benched his Tapu Kokos for the free retreat, and he also has the Tapu Lele for a project, getting those free Xerneases out, sort of getting himself ready to start using Geomancy for multiple turns, getting himself up to multiple energy with attachments and through the actual attack itself. And then being able to simply, hopefully for him, steamroll through his opponent. Because you're only losing one prize, the prize trade is really good as well. Jack here just benches his Staryu and immediately goes for the turn 1 Kiawe play onto that active Turtonator, so attaching 4 energies. So for Volcanion types of decks, or sort of fire decks in general, you really are looking to try and just again blow through your opponent, particularly in this matchup, because you're going to have to be taking those prizes really quickly, targeting the right Pokemon, and that's where Scott's going to really be looking to spread out his energies, as it were. So he does have a Sycamore in hand, does have the energy to retreat that Clefairy to get his Xerneas in the active position, plays his Max Elixirs. So again, of course, you play the Max Elixirs nice and early before you Geomancy to have the higher chance of hitting those Max Elixirs. So as soon as you see them, he just really wants to ramp up his energy on his board. So he does Geomancy, choosing, I believe, both the Xerneas and Xerneas Break that he's already evolved into. So Jack here, you see Scott, he did Max Elixir to the Clefairy, so he's already seen this play already with the Metronome. I actually had the opportunity to play against Scott and somehow squeak to tie, as it is a really, really tough matchup, particularly for a build like myself where I didn't play Kiawe. So we do see here Jack, he has decided to Ultra Ball another Kiawe, it looks like, and a Tapu Lele away. Be interesting why he may not have decided to have targeted and got a Guzma with the Tapu Lele, but it'd be interesting to see. So he does go for the Starmie, knowing Bright Flame will be discarding 2 energies, and he does play the Floatstone on the Starmie, and there's a high 5 for a fresh 7. So I guess in Jack's position, it's perfectly reasonable for him to just simply take the KOs on the active, because he's removing 1 energy regardless. So he does take the first prize. There's the choice band. All these shiny cards from Scott. It's not something. It's not a rarity for Scott anymore. Everything tends to be of the highest value. But if he can do it, why not? So he does Sycamore, a number of sort of, I think it looks like a couple of supporters and a couple of cards that he may not have been useful in his current hand. So Scott here, he's currently only got 3 energy on board, so 60 damage. He does have 1 Xerneas with a choice band, so it's maxing at 90 damage currently. There's the Max Elixir, does hit it once again, goes on to the Xerneas with the 2 energy. So Scott's having to think, He knows another Pokemon and will be going down this turn. Does Break evolve into the Xerneas Break. So now I can use Life Stream to attack. So for 2 Fairy Energies, it's 20 times the number of energy, all energy on your side of the board. So he would be looking for essentially 8 energy on the board and actually be able to do that. Does send up Clefairy and uses the first attack. Of course, it's a DC. That's not a choice band. So he has used Metronome. I'm just trying to think. That is not a choice band. That is just a really, really shiny golden double colored SNG. So there you go. So he has put 160 damage onto that Turtonator. Jack has switched into the Starmie. He has that free retreat Starmie, of course, because of the Floatstone. Has used 1 Steam Up. So I guess he's really looking to try and maybe take the KO here. Oh, he did just try and Fighting Fury Belt off the tools. Maybe get an attachment to the Volcanion. And potentially, yes, and try and go for the knockout that way. Because that Clefairy only has 40 HP. So that 1 Steam Up and 1 Fire Energy attachment. I'm just interested in the times of play. I'm surprised Jack did not go for the Volcanion, but it's working out in his favor anyway. He has just used Shell Trap, which is in his mind it is actually a really good attack for this situation. But Scott here is likely to maybe just Geomancy, because essentially he might be losing 1 energy for the next turn if Turtonator decides to attack with Bright Flame. However, he'll gain a net of 1 energy, which is probably what Scott would be going for. Just interesting, like I said, with Jack, he could have attacked with the Volcanion, powering up that the Volcanion on the bench as well, because it then allows him to Power Heater and get 2 energies onto the disc from his discard attached to his Pokemon. So it's interesting plays here. I'd be surprised to see if Scott actually does attack. I wouldn't expect him to. But you never know. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. There's another EXP share. So another way of just sort of preserving the energy on your side of the board if something does get knocked out. So Scott does go for the attack, does go for the KO, knowing that he can't allow that Turtonator to stay with energy on his board. And I guess the 80 damage on the Xerneas Break is fairly insignificant, because Volcanion, the baby Volcanion, will still need 2 Steam Ups to actually take the KO with a Power Heater attack. And with Scott having sort of access to DCs and extra Fairy Energies and Max Elixir still, he has that EXP share. He won't really be losing too many energies if anything gets knocked out. And he can still ramp up quite quickly. So there's 1 Steam Up, it looks like. And Jack does just Power Heater to his 2 bench Pokemon, so Starmie now has a Fire Energy attached to it. I guess should that Floatstone ever go, it simply means that he can actually just retreat with 1 energy, of course. There's the DC attachment to the Tapu Koko. So now with the energy on boards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's doing 120 damage. There's another EXP share. So it'd be interesting to see. I think Scott has some Super Rods in his hand, maybe 1 or 2. So he'd be looking to play that. I think it's just 1. Might be 2 actually. I think I might see in a second. So he's probably getting some more energy back into his deck. So he could potentially Geomancy and plays an N, of course. So I'm bringing them both down to 4 cards. So if Jack's not able to hit another Field Blow and then does take the KO on the Xerneas Break, Scott doesn't lose any damage, well, damage output as well, because of those EXP shares. But Scott does just go for the live stream attack. He's starting to take the sort of 2-hit KOs, as it were. There's the Field Blower, which could be really big, because that would be a sort of a net loss of 2 energies. Doesn't look like Jack has a Sycamore as well. So Jack's position here is really going to be... Well, no, he doesn't have a Sycamore. I do apologise. There's another Volcanion. I was wrong. There's a Max Elixir, which with the number of energies these decks play, like I mentioned before, it's probably about 14, 15 energy in Jack's deck. Potentially a little bit less, but not too much less at all. But then he does just Power Heater, taking the KO, and he's just now has another attacker on the bench, and one potentially easy to find just one more fire engine actually attack to as well. So Scot here, it doesn't look like he has another golden rescue stretcher in his hand. Does have super rod as well, so he's just getting his energy back in. Because then also I think he might have a max elixir in hand as well. Yes, he does. So now it's really just sort of trying to regain those energies back into his deck. There's a rescue stretcher. Oh, it does. Of course, he does max elixir first. It looks like he will be rescue stretchering 3 Pokemon back into his deck. Yep. So there's the rescue stretcher. 2 Xerneas Break, and probably another Xerneas if possible. Oh, there's the Clefairy. So knowing that Scot has, well, Jack has 3 prizes left to take. Scot's going to be only really attacking with those single prize attackers, of course. I'm trying to set up 2 or 3, maybe a third Xerneas Break could be an option. But I do feel like if Jack's able to take the KOs on these 2 Xerneas Break that Scot currently already has, it could be quite unlikely that the option's there for Scot to win. Because the XP shares are gone. It's just really down to if Jack can get a fire energy, which he does have in hand already. So he will be taking the KO on this Xerneas Break as well. You see Scot there, he did take that prize, of course. Oh, and of course Starmie is also out as an option, so does have the attachment, does have the steam up. So here Jack will be taking back-to-back knockouts with Volcanion EX. What was really useful in these decks once before with Xerneas Break, because there have been a few people who have played it before the rotation with access to cards like Hex Maniac. It essentially stops Volcanion from being able to do these kind of plays, having to actually go all the way for 2-hit knockouts. Scot here, he's got 4 energy, 6 energy on board, but he's not going to be able to take the knockout once again, just dealing the 120 damage, but with Jack potentially having to retreat to be able to attack. But he does have, once again, oh yeah, there you go, he does have the Starmie's Space Beacon ability, grabs 2 energy from the discard, double steams up and plays Guzma on the Tapu Lele, dealing 190 damage with his Volcanions, and taking the 1-hit KO. So things went really well there for Jack. He got the field blurs when he needed them, particularly when he's about to take knockouts with his Pokemon, stopping those EXP shares from really playing a part in the game. And I guess just through the consistency of being able to have multiple attackers, the Kiawe early pressure was really helped as well, with Turtonator taking 2 prizes, and also sort of with its Shell Trap attack setting up another KO with the Baby Volk there. So it'll be interesting to see how Game 2 pans out. Jack sort of took quite a comfortable Game 1 in the end. And there's Scot there with a mulligan. So if Jack's able to sort of maintain high damage output and actually being able to take the knockouts when and where he needs, that's sort of the main route to victory in this deck, in this matchup I should say. So Scot there, both players, so Jack has just mulligan as well, so there's no extra mulligan draw for him. And looks like he does have a Pokemon. He does have a Volcanion, and another Pokemon there. So he benches the Volcanion. There's the double Xerneas start from Scot. There's the Staryu start, which is ideal for Jack because it has a free retreat, of course. And then it just allows him to actually turn 1 Power Heater, or turn 1 just attack or do anything he wants really. Scot here going for the Tapu Lele with his Ultra Ball. It looks like he's discarded the Brigitte and another Ultra Ball. With 3 Xerneas out already, he doesn't need a Brigitte anymore. So he does just grab the Sycamore, plays the Max Elixir afterwards because he's already thinned his deck out by 1. But taking out that Sycamore, and it looks like he's just going to continue burning through his deck. There's a EXP share. Yep, it has an EXP share as well. Pay Sycamore for a clean high 5. Now it does look like he's drawn into N, Guzma, Xerneas Break, double colorless energy. So he's sort of safe to play that DCE down, although that was the only energy in his hand anyway. A lot of times you want to hold on to that double colorless energy until you're ready to attack, because it's a 40 plus damage modifier, as it were. Especially now with a lot of decks playing Enhanced Hammer. Ideally, you'd be looking to use that later in the game. But in this situation, he's probably sussed out that Jack probably doesn't play Enhanced Hammers. Like I said, a more conventional list, or fire list, or Volcanion list. I'm not really too sure how you want to call it. So Jack is going for an Ultra Ball with 2 fire energies in the discard and actually grabbing that Kiawe. He does have a max elixir he's going to play down first as well. Oh, he is just quickly shuffling up before he plays it. We'll offer the cut to Scot. There's the max elixir. Yep, he does hit it, attaches it to the Tapu Lele, and plays the Kiawe down. So he's just leaving the Staryu in the active position there. I feel like Staryu and Starmie's sort of plays quite a pivotal role in a lot of decks now. In Greninja and Volcanion particularly, it does seem like it's often quite a good target to take down quite early, because then your opponent will have to try and actually get hold of a sort of rescue stretcher or super rod to get them back. I don't expect Scott to be able to actually be looking to knock out the Staryu. He will still need to Geomancy and sort of get energy on the board, so he has just played an N after evolving to 2 breaks. And what that's done is forced Jack to have to steam up to be able to take the knockout. I mean, the chances are he will actually have them. Like I said, he plays a load of energy in his deck. So he's just decided to Geomancy there, just to do his 2 Xerneas on his bench. So now he's capped at 6 energy. And with 1 EXP share, 2 EXP share on the board. So Jack here will be looking to take the knockout, and he does look like he's hit the field blower again. So it's just, he is drawing particularly well, but you know, this is Pokemon sometimes, and it's just the deck being quite a consistent deck. Although he hasn't burnt through too much of his deck so far, these things just happen, and it's worked out really well in his favor. So there's a Nest Ball as well. He can have another quick check of his deck, see what's available. He's probably going to grab maybe Baby Volk. Yep, there you go, just so he has that option in case he has to start rebuilding his bench with fire energy. There's the end as well, so just give himself another fresh 6 cards. So with Scott losing as another Xerneas Break, it will seem like he's going to be again on the back foot. Of course, because you go first, you can't Geomancy first, but you have the options to set up first. Volcanion's quite happy to go second sometimes as well, because you do have that power heater option. And there you go, there's the Volcanic Heat from the Volcanion EX, taking the knockout on that Xerneas Break. And there's a max attachment to the Xerneas Break, and then a max elixir to the other Xerneas. So now Scott actually has 7 energy on board. I don't actually think Scott plays Field Blower. Or if he does, it is just a 1 copy. So he's just having to think here, because with 7 energy on board, he's doing 114. If he has a Choice Band, for example, is able to take the knockout on a Tapu Lele, for example. There's the Clefairy, so it looks like he might actually just be going for another Geomancy play this turn, unless he's able to hit another max elixir. There are 2 more in his hand, so he has options. That would put him to 9, dealing 180 damage, which isn't a KO on this Volcanion because of that Fighting Fury belt. So it'll be interesting to see what Scott does here. No, just say, you know, there's another EXP share on that Tapu Lele as well. So the option here is that Scott could potentially go for a Tapu Lele attack, sort of dealing 100 damage to that Volcanion, setting up, and knowing that Volcanion cannot attack again with Volcanic Heat without playing Guzma. That is also an option as well. So Scott misses the first max elixir, and and then it does hit the second one. So now it's 6, 7, 8 energy on board, 160 damage. Does have energy in hand as well. Scott does just send up the Xerneas Break and deals 100, 108, 160 damage. Not quite enough, but hoping that Jack won't be able to sort of retreat into it. So there, Jack. Look at his other hand. He does have max elixir. He does have second star use, so it's just another good starter in the deck itself. Does find fire energy, so power up the Turtonator on his bench. Interesting to see what Jack actually does here. Scott's hand isn't too great. Not that Jack would know, of course. But he does have a switch in hand, which once again gives him the option to actually take the knockout on this Xerneas Break. So then just free retreats into the Volcanion, steams up again, and actually just takes the knockout. So this situation for Scott, he does have 4 fairy energy in his hand. He can take the knockout with the Tapu Lele, I believe, yes, of course, because he's dealing 100 damage. But he's going to have to know that that Turtonator will come up, and if Jack gets a Fighting Fury Belt on it, or another Volcanion with a second fire energy, that Tapu Lele will be going down this turn. Yeah, so it's quite a difficult situation here for Scott with 4 fairy energy in hand. He's likely to attach it to the Clefairy yet. Does go for the Tapu Lele play and takes the 2 prizes. It's a much better hand now that he's drawn his 2 prizes. It looks like it was a Tapu Lele as well. But here, Jack will be looking to take the KO with that Turtonator, or I guess should be. There's the Ultra Ball, potentially for Starmie. Yep. So he's going to retreat into that Turtonator. Use the Sycamore, I believe, that's left in his hand. Use Space Beacon for 2 energies that are in his discard pile. There's a Sycamore. And then he'll have 2 energies, so that he'll have 1 energy attachment for the Turtonator and 1 energy for the... Oh, he doesn't even need to steam up anymore, so he just has to attach him with the Fury Belt. This will leave Scott in a really, really unfortunate position, as even though he's now got a supporter in hand, he's just lost another 2 energies. And now it's capped at 120 damage in that Turtonator. Although it has no energy on it, it can sit there and just Nitro Tank GX, attaching 5 fire energy from the discard pile to Jack's side of the board. So Scott here's really got to consider what he can try and do. He probably wouldn't look to really want... Oh my god, English is really poor. He wouldn't be looking to really bench that Tapu Lele, but he may not have any choice. Because essentially it would mean Jack has a route to victory without actually having to go through another 2 basic Pokemon. So there's Scott. It looks like he's going to Tapu Lele for the N. Try and slow down his opponent. Does have that Choice Band in hand and the Super Rod. So he plays the Super Rod first, getting back some Pokemon. Probably a Xerneas Break and an Energy, which looks like what he's put to the front. But it does look like, unfortunately, even that Clefairy won't be able to take the knockout this time, because he does have the Choice Band. But that Turtonator GX has a Fighting Fury Belt. God, apologies for all the mistakes, guys. So he's just considering his options here. Could potentially go for the Choice Band on... Yeah, Tapu Koko, dealing 50 damage to the active and sort of spreading and setting up damage on Jack's side of the board, which isn't actually a bad route to go down currently. Because then that Tapu Koko is unlikely to be knocked out, because Jack will have to spend a turn either finding a way to Guzma and retreating to that Volcanion and power heating. And at the same time, that Tapu Koko is going to be doing additional damage, especially with Scott's hand as well. He does have a Guzma, so he can actually start targeting whichever does begin to be powered up through either Nitro Tank GX or through another means. But it looks like Scott here is considering just retreating. So if he deals 50 to the active, which puts the Turtonator down to 180, Scott's side of the board currently has. Oh, he has actually gone for the attack. He's dealing 170. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 170 is a Turtonator. Interesting choice of plays here from Scott. I guess he doesn't really want to lose that DC, and it's even less likely that he's going to lose the Xerneas Break because of that extra HP that Pokemon actually has. So in Jack's position here, what he'd be looking to try and do, from what I can see, he did just Space Beacon for 2 Fire Energies. Does attach to that Volcanion EX. And he does just Nitro Tank GX. I'm surprised he didn't go for the Nest Ball, maybe get another attacker. Because if he went for another attacker, it means that he can then power up another attacker on the bench. But he has decided Nitro Tank GX. He has the free energy on that active Turtonator, free energy on a benched Volcanion. So here, it could potentially be a good decision to, yeah, you attach energy to the Tapu Lele so they have another attacker. He has Guzma. I would Guzma the Volcanion. Yep, this is probably the right player. Then takes the KO on the Volcanion using the Xerneas Break, because it's now dealing 190 damage. So potentially here now, Scott could be in a good position. Jack does need to find a Guzma. He does have Ultra Ball. Oh, he's just going to check. He hasn't used up it all at the moment. He does have Ultra Ball. So all he needs is an Ultra Ball for a Tapu Lele. And then he has Guzma for game. There's the Guzma. There's the Tapu Lele. There's the Guzma. For the Turtonator GX, using Bright Flame, dealing 170 damage to the Tapu Lele and taking game 2 of this final round. So congratulations to Jack. He does make it into top 8 by being with a 302 record. Unlucky Scott, unfortunately. Jack's deck just sort of drew a little bit better, and actually was able to take the KO and be quite aggressive really early on, taking those prizes, putting Scott on the back foot. So that does conclude our Swiss rounds from the Athena Games League Cup. Hope you guys all enjoyed all of those games. I'll be back very, very soon, very quickly. Hopefully, it's on a day-on-day release right now, with the top cup matches. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much. Peace.